Hey, hey, yay,
Hey.
yay. What you say?
Yay.
You know where you at. You know what time it
Yes.
is. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
this is the spice. Oh, ho, ho, ho,
Give
ho, ho, give me some
her
more.
la 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 life.
Yes. There we go. Thank you guys for joining us for another podcast episode.
I'm Chris.
I'm Angela.
Where's my keys?
I don't know. Where is your keys?
I'll find them. I have to look for them because I need the keys for a long-lasting marriage.
Yes. That's what our show's about.
Unintended.
Keys for a long-lasting marriage.
So usually we go. First of all, how you doing? You know how we
I'm
do.
doing good.
How you doing?
Doing good.
She doing good, y'all.
Yay.
That is good news.
Yes, yes. And yourself, how are you doing, Mr. Christopher?
I want to say I'm doing outstanding.
That is wonderful.
Or I can say I'm doing better than most.
That's wonderful.
One thing I'm not going to say is I'm doing bad.
Okay, that is good as well.
If I was, though, I would say it.
Yeah, then we would have to figure out what was wrong and
then you'll have to figure out what kind. Like, is it I'm bad, or is it like, man, I'm bad?
Yeah. Is it a feeling, like a physical feeling bad, or is it a mental like thing?
Yeah.
Is it something?
Or is it like man, that joker bad, right? That's bad, man.
Or are you saying, hey, I'm bad. I'm bad.
Yeah.
You know it. Shamo.
No, who's bad? Can I borrow a quarter?
Yeah.
But this is one that we had on our list. But I don't think I ever told you this. I kind of sketched around. I kind of was dodging that one because yeah, I guess from a outside looking in, we've probably been married for a minute.
Yes, in fact, we've been married.
We're gonna go on. How many years we gonna go on?
This is
January the 2nd. It'll be what?
January 2nd will be 28 years.
28. Okay. So it'll be 28. We're going on 28. We're 27. So we're next one down. Yes. Will be 28.
Yes.
So 27.
That's a long time.
You think it's a long time?
I think it's
Does
a
it
long
feel
time.
like
It
a
don't
long
feel
time?
like a long time, but it has been a while.
How does it feel?
Yeah. And that's a long marriage.
So as before, I was talking about the keys.
Yes.
And we're not gonna probably just go on the site and all that because we're married. We've been married for a while, so I think we can talk about it. But I think it's important to know certain, I guess, qualities or what's the word, like certain key words in there that are important. And I feel, in my opinion, that is something. I'll speak for me. I was gonna say we, but I'm pretty sure it is we. But I will say me. It's some things that we as a couple are. I just said we. Okay, me. Are stronger in, and there's some things that I really have to put a lot of personal work into doing.
Me too. Yeah.
But I think because of some of the things I'm stronger in, it helps. If I was weak in certain things, it would be.
Yeah.
And every last one of these things we're going to discuss, there's always room for improvement. So there's no like, oh, I'm here. I'm at 100, guys. That doesn't exist. If you think it exists, you're delusional. There's a 100% perfection to it.
There isn't. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yes. Anything you want to mention before I get into starting with one?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get to it.
Okay, so keys. Yeah. One of the things that me and Angela know from our discussion is we'll talk about is communicate. In fact, we just had a conversation about it. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. It is essential, but communication. I'm gonna give my thoughts about it. You can give me yours, but all right. I think communication is important. Do you?
Absolutely. It is like pertinent.
Now I'm gonna say this. I think honest communication is important, but I think this is me talking. There's a thing of in a marriage of being sometimes too honest may not always be the right thing. Sometimes I think we get too honest mixed up with saying things that's just too tough, too raw. So it's
You
okay to
mean
be honest, but I'm saying don't be like so blunt about it.
right? So you mean like a brutal honest? Let's say if I was asking you, so Christopher, what do you think about my hair? And you could say, I like it, but is it too poofy? You know, that's
Yeah,
it too poofy. When you know that overall my hair just looks good, just say it looks good. It's
yeah.
not too
So
poofy.
I'm going to say something to give another example. Um,
Yeah, I
I'll,
know
I'll talk about
that probably
me.
was a bad
No,
example.
that's a great example.
Okay.
That's See this. So this is a good. So we're here. So in marriage,
Yeah.
um, that's why communication is important. So when Angela gave a great example, I just wanted to be a part of what she was doing. So I want to give an example too. But she took it as maybe she didn't give a good example. So if you're not married or haven't been married a while, I could have been like, what is that all about? But I know because I've been married to her a long time what she kind of thinking, and now she's
Mm-hmm.
realizing that. Oh, and we talked about that before. Like some things that we
Yeah.
do or say, it's never because she did anything wrong. It's because I just want to be part of it. I want to
Yes.
be,
Yeah. He's giving his input. It's just
and
an
I might
input.
want to
Yeah.
joke. Like I
Yeah.
like, even though I look serious, people think I'm always serious and all that. But I was going to give a example about like my head. So somebody may say, "Oh man, that's a." I may say, man, what do you
Yeah.
think about, I think, cause I used to have, I felt like I had some hair here. Say, oh man, your head, it's good. You got a nice distinguished head. That's
Like you be like,
nice.
what? What does that
Or
mean?
somebody
What
say,
am I
man,
supposed to
yeah, that
take
thing
from?
is beaming. You can crack walnuts with that thing. So people can just say some blunt stuff
That is blunt.
and hurt feelings.
I understand that.
So I'm just, I was just piggybacking. But Angela gave a better example, but I was just joking about it.
Yeah. Also going to say that in communication is not only what you say, but how you say it. You can say something like, "Hey, that really looks good," or you can say, "Hey, that really looks good." Or something like how it's say it, the tone, your tone of voice. Sometimes some things can be like, "Oh, that's too loud," or it could some people can take it a certain way just by how you're saying it. I hopefully that made sense.
It makes sense. And connected to that, I think the hard part for people is to accept if somebody says it. So if if I tell somebody, man, that bothered me, that person has to. It don't matter if they see it or not. A lot of
Right.
times they have to tell me something about it. I have no clue what is it on,
Mm-hmm.
but I have to still like, okay, my bad. I have to do that. At
Yeah.
least acknowledge that. I have to acknowledge whatever they're saying. Just the other day, she said a phrase that I was like, "That's crazy. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like that phrase at all." Even though she probably didn't clearly see it because of how she grew up or whatever, she still got to be like, "All right, my bad, whatever." If we can do the my bad more often, it actually alleviates a lot of back and forth because the person, once Angela feels strong about something, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. It can get out of hand. Same thing with me. If she don't acknowledge that I'm bothered by something, it can turn into a big argument.
Yeah, it can, especially when it's not against you. Like for example, I know, me and Christopher was raised differently. Our household were different. We communicated differently. I have to speak to where he understands. Sometimes when I say something, I know he took it the wrong way. I know it's taken the wrong way. So I'm like, how can I say this so that he can understand what I'm saying or he gets it. That way we both won't be frustrated with each other. Because a lot of times that happens where we say things and it's conveyed to where they're taking it differently. And that causes an argument. It causes an unnecessary argument when it's like, hey, this is something simple. This is something small. Why did it escalate like
Yeah.
this?
Yep.
It went from here to here.
And I can
Like,
tell you,
oh,
we talked about it because you know why. Because this is
yeah,
so with that comes back. So with communication, we mean good communication.
yes,
One key element, and this is where usually me and her go, boop, is because when we're communicating and our feelings are hurt and we're frustrated, listening is low on our pole. Like I'm half listening to her when I'm mad or irritated, and I feel she's not even listening to me. she's exactly the same way. So one or both of us would do better to say, okay, let me just listen. Set. Sometimes it takes a pause on the feeling thing and the emotion thing to do it. Or at some point they subside. Sometimes we'll take a break and come back on. And sometimes when I have time to think about it, of course, have a conversation, do a prayer, and meditate on it, I realize, like, man,
Mm-hmm.
I start focusing on what the injustice has done to me. I
Yeah.
start focusing, like, man, Chris, you could have did this
Yeah.
different. You could have did that different. Um, I still want something to be said because I don't want that to, you know, but at the same time, I want the focus to be on, I acknowledge this person's issues
Yeah.
too.
Oh, yeah. Because we both want each other to be concerned with what our feelings, you know. If someone acts and talks as though they don't care, they're not listening, that rub off really, like, in a really bad way. And the communication could just get so bad. I mean, it could go just downhill from there, and that's not good. So having that empathy, having the feelings, having the love and respect for each other while you're communicating
Mm-hmm.
will end up there being a positive conversation to where you're getting
Mm-hmm.
further. You're feeling good. So that's the thing. When you're communicating, I know this for a fact that when we're communicating and we're both feeling good about the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
it's a positive thing, for
Mm-hmm.
the both of us. But when things go down here, you don't feel like I'm being misunderstood. Let me just be quiet.
So
That's
one
not good.
one of the keys to marriage, and so I'm gonna tie it in, is respect. So
Yeah.
that's where, in communication, we still talking about communication, but we want to tie in respect, because that's where the communication can go bad, because it can be perceived that one or both are not respecting
Yes.
each other. And when that happens, especially, I'm just gonna again speak for me. When the respect thing gets weird, that sets me off probably more than anything on the planet. Like, I I get so, like, even if Angela in her mind and heart is, no, she's not trying to do that. If something in her tone and words and conversation has triggered that, it don't matter to me at that point what she thinks she's not doing. I know what is impacting me. And I think by now, would you say that's my biggest pet peeve?
Oh yeah, it is his biggest pet
Yeah.
peeve. Christopher, that is huge for him. So at any time, sometimes he can say that, oh, he can feel that he's not being respected, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, I don't. What was it? Sometimes I'd be inquiring, like, what did I do? What did I say?
Yeah.
to kind of make you feel that I wasn't, like, there wasn't respect there, or you feel that, hey, I could do better in that subject, respect.
Yeah.
So when we're having open and honest communication about that, that's something that I can work on better if I have a little bit more insight on, okay, what in particular was it that was said or done.
I was gonna say, what I find is that with Angela, if she said something that I didn't like and her mind state is good, she's in a good place. She's not, stressed. When she's chill, man, I can say anything and she'll take it like, okay, yeah, okay, cool. But if it's where she's already stressed and whatever, it's more difficult to explain it. It's way more difficult to try to even get it out. Um, so I think too, like, as I'm talking about this, one thing I can continue to kind of try to focus on, because my goal is not to try to prove a point all the time. It's really like, how can we always communicate better? I know there's no such thing as perfection, but how can I have disagreements with Angela, or Angela has a disagreement with me, where it's a disagreement, but we're not at an extreme.
Yeah.
We're not overly angry. We're not happy about the whole thing, but we're not so mad at each other or angry with each other, which can happen.
Yeah.
And I feel the worst about it. Like, that's the worst feeling
Mm-hmm.
world, when we're at odds.
So
It is
also,
terrible.
can you agree also to the fact that and this is something we learned later on in the marriage, so it's like when you talk about who's right and who's wrong, that goes out the window after you've been married for a long time.
Yeah,
The focus is not. I mean, when you first get married, oh, I was right about
that's
this.
right.
You
Hmm.
want to prove who's right and
Debate it to
wrong.
the end.
Yeah, that's the big debate. But
I love Yep. You're
When
right.
as time goes by and you still in marriage, what matters now is the fact that we're understood, really,
Mm-hmm.
that we're making that we're understood. Hey, or we're making our point. And also,
Mm-hmm.
just like like Christopher mentioned before, the love and respect is shown in the communication.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I think as we get older, sometimes the communication, when we're trying to get each other understand what we're saying, and just like you said, sometimes I get brain faults and I'm like, I don't know how to explain this to him. I don't know how to get my point across. Sometimes I have to go off and pray like, hey,
Yeah.
how can I get this point across? Or I have to be like, figure out like
Well, you have to have
Christopher's
the.
mind state. Like, it's so good to know as I gotten older, what is his mind state? What does he understand that I said? Like, I'm trying to just get some clarification on. So how did he get that? So I have to listen. Listening is very important. Listening, just trying to figure out and asking questions. I used to be like, oh, he asking too many questions, but I understand why he was asking me questions. He wasn't trying to figure out what I'm thinking or what's going on in my brain because I said something he didn't get. He didn't understand.
Right. Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
all of those things are
Mm-hmm.
are important in trying to get each
Mm-hmm.
other and trying to understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So the main thing is not who's right, who's wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but let's come to a resolution on this.
Yeah.
Resolution is so important
Yeah.
in our marriage.
Yeah.
Resolving whatever issue there is or whatever we're trying to say or trying to get something simple. It could be very simple.
Mm-hmm. I think what I
Yeah.
found a lot of times is we we are actually, this is reality. No matter how long you've been married to someone, in my opinion anyway, and you know each other pretty well. So there's some things you're like, I know what he's thinking, or I know what she thinks. Sometimes we're not always right. Like I may think and she'll think of something, and I'm not close. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the same for her. She's convinced of something to think in a certain way, and she's not even close. Because the bottom line is that sometimes we do know each other and we do kind of have a symbiotic way. Sometimes I can answer Angela's question before she finishes. She knows this. I can answer her question before she finishes it because I already know what she's going to say. Something related to food, whatever like whatever the topic. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, da da da. And she's like, you don't. So you're going to answer like, I know, because because we just got. But sometimes, and this is for both of us, I could have something, and this is why. Let me tell you why we're not gonna always think the same. Simply because I'm a guy. I'm a guy that think guy stuff and guy
Mm-hmm.
ways and guy things,
Yeah.
and it's not going. And sometimes what she think, if she's thinking from a woman point of view, she's way off. My brain ain't even thinking nothing about that because I don't think that way.
And what's crazy too
And it's the
is
same for me.
the fact that I am an overthinker. So I do
Yes.
overthink things a lot. So as I grew as times passed by, I'm not gonna say as I got older, as time passed by,
As I get wiser.
um, I keep that in mind. And then I do a step back and like, okay, I'm overthinking this because guys are more simple than we know. So it's like I'm thinking something is a lot more complicated and it's that, and when it was just very simple.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that about myself and I'm working on it. And because that saves me a lot of time and a lot of stress,
Yeah.
not overthinking things. So
I get.
I
I'm
think
sorry.
I'm doing better in that
Mm-hmm.
regards
Yeah.
than I have before.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and I have to do the same thing. A lot of it comes from again where we are in our own thinking. That pops up most of the time for us when if we're off and start thinking this crazy stuff the person not thinking. It's probably something to do with our own thinking, our own insecurities, and then it kind of crept in there, and now we tying it in with reality. And I'll be on, and Angela probably know this. Sometimes that it's not even that we disagree. It's the fact that she has said something and convinced of it when it's a billion miles away from whatever I was thinking. It's so far off, and I get mad on that. I'm like, I'd be shocked. Like what the? I be so upset about like how you speaking as though this is facts and this is not even close to my brain. Now it's on my brain because I'm upset about it, and we do that. And and she says she work, and that's the thing. I can say this, I can 100% say for sure that that has improved tremendously, and she definitely takes it. I think that's why we are where we are, because it's things she's mentioned that that I continue to try to work on. I have continued to work on, because I know I already have a deep voice. I already have a voice that when I'm speaking, is sometimes it carries, and especially if I'm excited. So I have to continuously work on my tone, my voice, and my inflections. Even I'm a naturally gesture guy. I have natural facial things, but I have tried to work on them. Not that I can change it because it's part of my personality, but I try to work on it for the sake of my love for Angela,
Oh,
if that makes
thank you.
sense.
Yes, it does. And I'm going to add this too. All right. Being overthinker. It is so important, just that he's mentioned, to not react or overreact to the overthinker, because when you do, it could be a waste of, we wasted plenty of disagreements because of the overthinking, so
Yeah.
so important just to sit down and say, okay, let's think this through. It's just like you getting out. Excuse me. I'm laughing. It's like you getting out the little playbook, like when you got a football game, the coaches, say you gonna do this like a like a strategy. Doing that kind of gets talk it out, and like, okay, all right, so let's go over this. At first, I hated having to go over and repeat stuff. But if you repeat it and just go through and figure out why things were the way they
Mm-hmm.
are, it will help. Like, I wouldn't be at this point of thinking of how, Chris, he kept saying, oh, you overthinking it. There you go. You overthink.
Mm-hmm.
I took that as him saying, like, there you go. You're labeling me as an overthinker, and I'm getting tired of you labeling me. But
Mm-hmm.
I should listen. Okay, he keeps saying this. Why is he saying this? Getting to the root of it. So yeah, I do overthink. I did overthink more than I should have. And just talking about it, okay. Oh, so he thought this because I said this, he thought of something else. Or he
That's
thought of
right.
something. We if you think of that, then we come together, and a lot of weight is lifted off once you uncover things. Once
Yeah.
you figure out, okay, this person really wasn't thinking this negative thing about me. They was trying to, they was thinking this instead of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when we were younger, and Angela used to say just the most extreme doom and gloom stuff. Like when she's emotional upset, she just say whatever. Like, and I didn't realize. I took it all seriously. I took it all 100% facts is what's going on. And it got to a point where I just started believing, okay, I guess that's where this is going to go. But I started realizing, man, when she's emotional and upset, just Angela was just, and I know she's working on, but she would say anything, just like, we'll, blow everything gonna go to he double hockey sticks and a handbags. It's just gonna it's gonna go. And I used to be like, okay, well, I guess that. But I'm starting to realize that when her emotions kick in, she give herself time. She comes. It's like a turtle that pop, a snapping turtle. We was watching that thing with the snapping turtle the other day. It's like a snapping turtle pop out. Da, da, da. But once you give her time, she kind of goes back in her shell and go back to normal. And it's almost sometimes like it didn't even like she didn't even say it. And I'm still thinking like, well, the doom and gloom
So,
bombs Gary blow up in it, and she won't even like she won't. It's like she never said because she was really upset. And I think
so,
she would say, I don't know if you noticed, but you would say some crazy like, yeah, 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 and then you'll look at me to see how I react to it. And I honestly don't even know how to react. Sometimes I just sit there like, huh?
well, sometimes when I do that, it's because Christopher doesn't seem like he cares. So I will say little things to him to be like, man, does he even care? I mean, let me
Yeah,
say
that's one of
this.
your
Let me see what
phrases.
his response is, just to get a response out of him. Like, oh, then I'll say, well, I guess he don't like me today. Oh,
That's another one. Yeah,
I guess he thinks I look crazy today. And then I say that, and then he's and then if he don't say nothing, I'm like, did he hear me?
that's the
Like,
doom and
what
gloom
is the response?
extreme. Yeah.
So sometimes it's like, if he responds a different way, if I'm not getting a like, hey, I need to know this, let me just put something out there.
Yeah.
And then sometimes in some situations, depending on what time of month it is, I will feel a certain way. I will be in a certain mood.
Sometimes.
I will, because of emotions. I will be like that. And I recognize that over time. I recognize that. And then I'll let him know, hey, I am feeling this kind of way today. Just
Yeah.
beyond, just I would need more of this or more of that, especially if I know I'm emotional. I need you to, what do you mean?
Well, that's hard.
I know,
You do
no,
say
no, no.
that for
I have
sure.
to, because it's the thing. Just like you are a guy,
Yeah.
and a guy feel a certain way. I am a woman. I'm a lady that's probably premenopausal.
Yeah.
That's gonna have some emotions going on. And if I know that I'm having a bad time or bad day that day, you need to know. So you'll be like, oh, okay, she did say this to me. I don't need to take stuff personally, or I need to be, let me kind of help out, or not be, or not, let me try to be, let me make her day easier,
Right.
or something like that. Because that's needed, because emotions are hard to manage. They are hard. I'm not saying it's an excuse for it not. It's not an excuse for me to go, crazy and
Yeah.
just, everything's going to be crazy today. I'm just letting you know I'm going to, say some stuff out of pocket.
Right.
But for you to know that Angela's having a highly emotional day, she may need a little bit more time to kind of get herself together, or she might need more self-care, because that's one thing I've been practicing, self-care. If she says something out of pocket, then I need to know whether these emotional or whether this is just something that she,
It's usually emotional.
See, even him saying that could get an argument.
Really?
In the past, he'll say,
Well,
"Oh,
that's facts.
and then I would say, "Look, you don't know what's emotional and what's not, so it's good for you to just try to figure it out. We got to figure out
Right.
what's up.
Well,
Am I overly exaggerating in this situation,
yeah.
or is it something that
So,
we need to address?" Stay tuned for part 2, coming up next on The Spice Oh Life.